Good evening and many thanks for joining us. This is the news on Galaxy Television broadcasting to viewers here in Nigeria and across the globe. I am Tife Tanimomo. Our top stories. President Buhari promises to consolidate an economic growth success. Buhari bids Tunisian ambassador to Nigeria. Panel summit reports. NASA Nigeria US completes Afghanistan withdrawal of 67,000 citizens and 6,000 citizens of US. We'll bring you details shortly. A very warm welcome to you. Many thanks for joining us once again. We begin with stories from the federal government. As President Muhammadu Buhari says, focus on job creation, consistency in policy and innovation has given a 5% growth to the economy in the second quarter of 2021. The Federal Ministry of Education assures the implementation of reports of the visitation panel. Let's go over that story once again. Let's go over the story once again. Still on President Muhammadu Buhari as it consolidates on economic growth. President Muhammadu Buhari says focus on job creation, consistency in policy and innovation stimulates a 5% growth of the economy in the second quarter of 2021, which is the highest in 6 years. Correspondent Nabuchi has more on this report.
The president, who assured the Jubilee Fellows program will further consolidate on the success recorded by his administration, listed some of the key drivers of economic growth and diversification in the second quarter to include telecommunications, transportation, electricity, agriculture, and manufacturing. He recalled setting up the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy Steering Committee to coordinate, which was to work to fulfill its promise to lead 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. He added that the recent economic growth will build on the positive results from the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan and the targeted response to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic with the Economic Sustainability Plan.
The significant impacts of the pandemic on economies was loss of jobs and opportunities, with the International Labour Organization estimating the equivalent of an unprecedented 255 million jobs being lost around the world as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. On Tuesday, 22nd June 2021, I set up the National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy Steering Committee to coordinate our work to fulfill my promise to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years.
In his remarks, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Otumba Adeniyi Adebayo, said the government remains appreciative of the role of private sector in transforming economies by creating employment and employment opportunities and investments. It said startup, largely driven by young Nigerians, attracted $170 million in the past year, which was the highest on the African continent, explaining that the Nigeria Jubilee Fellows program was to celebrate the nation's 60th anniversary.
With the necessary tools to develop our human capital as well as our industries. The Jubilee Fellows program is aptly named in recognition of the fact that we are in the year of our 60th independence anniversary as a nation. This administration is committed to playing its role in enabling the private sector to fulfill its true potential as our country continues to make progress.
Today, young Nigerians are breaking barriers, opening new frontiers, not just in Nigeria, but on the global stage. Young Nigerians continue to demonstrate to the world that they possess the capacity, ingenuity to transform their lives and those in their communities.
You know, you come through some very impressive figures. I mean, 60% of Nigerians are below 25, and 30% of African youth are those young Nigerians, which is pretty impressive. This being said, it's difficult not to find the obvious answer to where we should be looking, and I think it's at the young and what to do with them so that they can find a productive life.
Today, the world is home to approximately 1.8 billion young people, with many of them living on the continent of Africa. As we already know, Nigeria contributes close to 20% of Africans' youth. If harnessed effectively, this population of young people offer a critical opportunity to lead Nigeria's development acceleration, accelerate the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goal, and becomes its great assets as agents.
The resident representative of UNDP, Mohamed Yahya, EU Deputy Head of Delegation Alexander Borges Gomez, and United Nations Resident Coordinator Edward Cullen commended the program, assuring their organizations will continually support Nigerians to move human potentials across the country to capacities and skills that will place the country on a better pedestal.
Still on the news, let's stay with the presidency for a while, as President Muhammadu Buhari Tuesday thanked the outgoing ambassador of Tunisia to Nigeria, Jalil Trabelsi, for the deep love he has shown to the country, leading him to serve for 10 years at 2 different times. Trabelsi first served in the past for 5 years as an officer, came back later to serve as an ambassador for another 5 years, and now describes himself as a lover of Nigeria and her people. A statement from the special advisor to the President of Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, said the outgoing diplomat noted the excellent relation between his country and Nigeria, which dates back in history, with many agreements, organized business forums attended by 400 groups across the sectors, and generally collaborated for mutual interest, saying that his country will always support and promote Nigeria. Now let's stay with the presidency, but now on educational matters. The Federal Ministry of Education has assured that government will give accelerated attention to the implementation of the white paper produced by the report of the visitation panel to higher institutions in the country. The Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, who was represented by Chukwuemeka Nwajiuba, said a subcommittee would be set up to look into the white paper that would be drawn from the recommendations, hoping that recommendations of the report will address the challenges identified in tertiary institutions in the past years.
The session is to review the performance of the institutions in the areas of governance, standards, quality assurance, management of finances, the relationship between management on the one hand and staff and students on the other, the assessment of the condition of physical infrastructure and the quality of instruction as well as instructional facilities.
Chairman of the Presidential Visitation Panel to University of Abuja, Bukar Aji, observed tertiary institutions give priority to internally generated revenues, IGRs, at the expense of educational quality.
White papers approved by government are not implemented, and another irritation is coming. Then somebody somewhere might entertain some fear that whether the one that is done currently would also go along the same way. But not to say that the universities have not tried. In particular, in the University of Abuja, my rating was that from the approvals given to the university in the last visitation panel, they've implemented about 45% of that. And 45, of course, may not be a pass mark.
You will recall that President Muhammadu Buhari on April 13, 2021 inaugurated visitation panels for 38 federal universities, 4 inter-university centers, 25 polytechnics, and 21 colleges of education to review the performance of higher institutions in Nigeria. Now, let's move away from the federal government for a moment and step in the southwest as the commencement of road expansion project under a bridge in Ikeja by the Lagos State Ministry of Transportation, despite few complaints on loss of property and profit, has been a welcome development by shop owners in the area. Some of the shop owners complained of not getting quick notice, which would have helped them prepare well for the